There is a place on this planet where the pressure would crush a human body like a paper cup in less than a second, a place so deep, so dark, and so utterly alien that we have explored less than 5% of it. We have better maps of the surface of Mars than we do of this trench. And it is right here. On Earth. This is the Mariana Trench, and what lives down there, what science has discovered, and what still lurks in the sections we have never reached will absolutely destroy everything you thought you knew about our world. Fact number 1. The Mariana Trench is so deep, Mount Everest would drown inside it, with over a mile to spare. Let that land for a second. Mount Everest stands at 8,849 meters, the tallest mountain on Earth. The Mariana Trench plunges to a confirmed depth of 10,935 meters at its deepest point, a section called Challenger Deep, officially measured by the 5 Deeps expedition in 2010 and refined further in 2022. That means if you picked up Mount Everest and dropped it into the Mariana Trench, the peak would still sit nearly 2,100 meters, over 2 kilometers, below the ocean surface. You would not even see it from a boat. The trench itself stretches approximately 2,550 kilometers in length, roughly the distance from New York City to Denver, Colorado. And this is not a simple crack in the seafloor. It is a geological crescent-shaped scar formed where the Pacific Plate is being subducted, shoved under the Mariana Plate, at a rate of about 2 to 3 centimeters per year. This process, called subduction, generates some of the most powerful earthquakes on Earth, and it is the reason this trench exists at all. Visuals here, an animated cross-section infographic comparing Everest's height to Challenger Deep's depth, with a depth scale bar on the right side. Fact number 2. The pressure at the bottom would crush a human instantly. It is over 1,000 times greater than surface pressure. At sea level, the atmospheric pressure on your body is about 14.7 pounds per square inch, or roughly 1 atmosphere. At Challenger Deep, the pressure reaches approximately 1,086 atmospheres, that is over 15,900 pounds of force pressing on every single square inch of surface area. To put that into physical terms, a polystyrene foam cup sent down to that depth comes back the size of a golf ball, completely compressed by the weight of 10 kilometers of water pushing down on it. Scientists actually do this experiment regularly. It has become a tradition on deep-sea research vessels. The human body, with its air-filled cavities, lungs, sinuses, ear canals, would collapse catastrophically within milliseconds at that depth without protection. Even submarines built for deep-sea exploration require hulls of titanium and specially engineered ceramic composite materials just to survive for hours. The DSV limiting factor, the submersible used in the 5 Deeps expedition, weighs over 12 tons and was rated to withstand the full pressure of Challenger Deep, and it flexed measurably during the descent. Visuals here, a pressure comparison bar chart from 1 atmosphere to 1,086 atmospheres, with color-coded markers at key depth milestones. Fact number 3, life not only exists at the very bottom, it is thriving in ways that shatter the rules of biology. For most of scientific history, experts believed life could not exist below a certain depth. No sunlight means no photosynthesis. No photosynthesis means no food chain. Game over. They were spectacularly wrong. In 2017, a team from Newcastle University discovered a species of snailfish, Pseudoliparus swerii, living at depths between 6,000 and 8,000 meters in the Mariana Trench. And here is where it gets bizarre. Instead of being crushed, these translucent, ghostly fish have evolved bodies that are almost entirely soft tissue and cartilage rather than rigid bone, which means the pressure distributes evenly across their bodies rather than crushing them. They also produce a molecule called trimethylamine oxide, or TMAO, in extraordinarily high concentrations. It acts like a biological antifreeze that keeps their cell proteins from collapsing under pressure. Scientists now believe that 8,200 meters may be the absolute biological limit for vertebrate fish, not because of pressure alone, but because TMAO concentrations required above that depth would actually make the cells toxic. These fish are essentially living right at the edge of what biology will physically allow. Visuals here, a labeled anatomical diagram of Pseudoliparus swerii with callouts for soft tissue adaptations and TMAO concentration zones. Fact number 4. The bottom of the trench is covered in layers of microplastics. Humans polluted a place we have barely visited. This one is not just mind-blowing. It is genuinely alarming. In 2019, researcher Alan Jameson and his team published findings in the journal Royal Society Open Science confirming that microplastic contamination had been found at the very bottom of Challenger Deep, the deepest point on Earth. They discovered plastic fibers and fragments in sediment samples and inside the bodies of small crustaceans called amphipods living at depths exceeding 10,000 meters. The concentrations of microplastics found inside the amphipod tissues were, in some cases, higher than those found in organisms from heavily polluted surface waters in China's most industrial coastal zones. How did it get there? Ocean currents concentrate floating debris into gyres, massive circular current systems, and the Mariana Trench sits in direct proximity to the western Pacific Gyre. Over decades, plastics fragment into microscopic particles, sink, and are consumed at every level of the water column until they settle in the deepest sediments on Earth. This means human industrial pollution has reached, and contaminated, a place humans have physically visited fewer than 20 times in all of history. Visuals here, an infographic map of Pacific Ocean gyre pathways leading to the Mariana Trench, with a contamination concentration gradient chart. Fact number 5. There are active mud volcanoes and liquid carbon dioxide pools at the bottom. It is geologically alive. Most people picture the deep ocean floor as a flat, silent, dead wasteland. In reality, the Mariana Trench region is one of the most geologically active environments on the planet. In 2003, an expedition led by NOAA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, discovered a phenomenon at a site called the Champagne Vent, located in the Mariana Arc near the main trench. Instead of the expected superheated water, they found pools of liquid carbon dioxide bubbling up from the seafloor. This is extraordinarily rare. Liquid CO2 only forms under specific high-pressure, low-temperature conditions, and the Champagne Vent is one of only a handful of known locations on Earth where it occurs naturally in the ocean. The bubbles emerge from hydrothermal vents at temperatures around 103 degrees Celsius, and the CO2 immediately liquefies under the crushing pressure. Surrounding these vents is a thriving microbial ecosystem that uses chemosynthesis, deriving energy from chemical reactions rather than sunlight, to survive. These microbe communities are so robust that they have changed how astrobiologists think about where life might exist on moons like Europa, Jupiter's ice-covered ocean moon. Visuals here, an animated diagram of a hydrothermal vent cross-section showing chemosynthetic microbial layers and liquid CO2 pool formation. Fact number 6. The Mariana Trench contains an entire underwater mountain range, including peaks taller than any mountain in the continental United States. Here is something that almost nobody knows: the Mariana Trench is not just a featureless chasm. Within and around it sits a complex landscape of underwater mountains, ridges, and seamounts that dwarf most surface geography. The Magellan Seamounts, located near the Mariana region, include individual peaks that rise over 4,000 meters from the ocean floor. The mid-ocean ridge system, of which the trench's subduction zone is a part, is the longest mountain chain on Earth, stretching over 65,000 kilometers across every ocean basin. It makes the Rockies and the Appalachians look like speed bumps. Within the trench itself, sonar mapping, particularly by vessels using multi-beam echo sounders capable of centimeter-level resolution, has revealed terraced walls, landslide scarps, and exposed rock faces that would be considered dramatic geological formations if they existed on land. In 2011, NOAA's Okeanos Explorer mapped large sections of the trench walls for the first time in detail, revealing features that had existed completely unknown and unseen since the trench formed millions of years ago. We are still finding new geographic features in a location we have known about since 1875. Visuals here, a sonar topography color relief map of the Mariana Trench region with labeled seamount peaks and depth gradients. Fact number 7. Only 4 people in all of human history have ever reached the very bottom of Challenger Deep. We have sent 12 people to the surface of the moon. We have had humans continuously living in space aboard the International Space Station since the year 2000. But as of 2024, only 4 individual human beings have ever descended to the deepest point on Earth, Challenger Deep, and returned. The first were Don Walsh, a U.S. Navy lieutenant, and Swiss oceanographer Jacques Picard, who descended aboard the bathyscaphe Trieste on January 23, 1960. They spent only about 20 minutes on the bottom at a depth of approximately 10,916 meters before ascending, partly because the observation window cracked under pressure during the dive. The next person would not reach the bottom until 52 years later, filmmaker James Cameron, who made a solo descent on March 26, 2012, in his custom-built submersible deep-sea Challenger, spending about 3 hours on the seafloor. Then, in 2019, retired naval officer Victor Vescovo became the fourth human to reach the bottom, and he set the current record for deepest crewed descent at 10,928 meters during the 5 Deeps expedition. By comparison, over 6,000 people have now summited Mount Everest. Challenger Deep remains one of the least visited specific locations in human history. Visuals here, a timeline infographic with photos and depth markers for each of the 4 crewed descents, styled as a mission timeline chart. Fact number 8. Scientists believe the unexplored sections of the Mariana Trench may harbor entirely new branches of life, organisms so different they could redefine biology itself. Save this one, because this is where it gets truly staggering. We have only physically sampled and explored an infinitesimal fraction of the Mariana Trench's floor. The trench covers approximately 2,550 kilometers in length and varies in width between 69 and 96 kilometers. Of that entire area, the total seafloor footprint directly observed and sampled by crewed or remotely operated vehicles is estimated to be less than 1%, possibly far less. Every single time researchers do reach the bottom and collect samples, they find new species. In a 2023 paper published in Deep Sea Research, a team analyzing sediment cores from various trench depths identified over 200 microbial species that had never been catalogued by science. Some displayed metabolic processes, the chemical reactions they use to generate energy, that had no parallel in any known organism. Astrobiologists at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory have taken direct interest in these microbes because their biochemistry may model what life could look like in the subsurface ocean of Saturn's moon Enceladus, where conditions of pressure, temperature, and chemical environment may be comparable. In other words, the Mariana Trench may not just be teaching us about Earth. It may be our best preview of extraterrestrial life. And we have barely scratched the surface of its deepest points. The final frontier is not outer space. It might be 11 kilometers beneath the waves, right here on our own planet. Visuals here, a split-panel infographic comparing Mariana Trench microbial diversity data to NASA projections for Enceladus ocean chemistry, with color-coded metabolic pathway diagrams. The Mariana Trench is not just a hole in the ocean. It is a time capsule, a biological laboratory, a geological engine, and quite possibly the key to understanding life beyond Earth, and we have barely opened the door. 8 facts in, and we have still only told you a fraction of what lurks down there. Subscribe to Moonlit Minds for daily mind-blowing facts that will change how you see the world.